This is Steve Morris with this presentation on Protect Your Company, a partial to-do list. Now, of course, first the disclaimer, this is not legal advice. It's a checklist to remind you of things to talk to your attorney about. You do need to talk to an attorney to protect your company and your intellectual property. Now, a few things starting with intellectual property. Don't use IP that you don't own. In particular, don't violate your former employer's IP assignment and non-compete agreement. Make sure you understand what you signed, what your former employer owns, and make sure you don't bring any of that intellectual property into the new company. Make sure your co-founders look at the same thing. Other things to protect your IP: get confidentiality and proprietary rights agreements signed by all the founders, employees, contractors. You want to make sure your company owns its intellectual property. Investors will require these. They will not invest unless they think you really do own your IP. And consider non-compete agreements for founders and employees if you're in a state like Oregon that does allow them. Other things, trademarks and trade dress. Think about, things like your logo, your product name, your company name, your packaging, and so forth. Talk to an IP attorney about whether you should be protecting those. And copyrights. You probably should be placing a copyright symbol on your website and in your computer code. Talk to an attorney about registering copyrights to decide if that's something you should be pursuing. And be sure you get non-disclosure agreements before disclosing proprietary information to partners. And if they give you their NDA to sign, be sure your attorney goes over it first. Some NDAs are not that friendly. And remember, investors usually will not sign non-disclosures, but partners really should. Other IP things to cover: protect your inventions and your ideas. Talk to a patent attorney about a strategy. Should you be using patents for utility patent protection, design patent protection, or would a trade secret approach make more sense for your business? Some questions to ask the patent attorney: are these ideas even patentable? And if they are, and if they were patented, would those patents even have any value? Would they really do you any good? Good things to talk to a patent attorney about. Organize your files. It's great to do all the right things to protect your IP. You have to be able to prove that you've done the right things. That means when it comes due diligence time with an investor, you need to have your files organized so you can find those IP assignment, non-compete agreements, contractor agreements, NDAs, trademark docs, and so forth. You need all of that organized, and your life will be so much easier when it comes to due diligence. Now, you also need to protect the ownership of the company, i.e., your stock. Be sure that you formalize all stock purchase agreements with a written agreement that's been put together by a securities attorney. This is too important to not do with an attorney's help. And when it comes to founder stock, be sure you protect yourself against a founder leaving, whether they leave because they want to or because they're asked to. If a founder takes off in just a few weeks or months, you really don't want them walking off with a big chunk of your company. You need some protection, like maybe a buyback right, or there are other ways to do it too. But talk to an attorney to make sure you're protected against losing founders. And think about your company finances. When you get outside directors or investors on your board of directors, you'll certainly need some director and officers insurance, and it's a good idea to get some liability coverage. And certainly you need a legal entity as a company, and that legal entity needs to have a checking account and a credit card, and you need to keep your personal finances separate from the company's finances. Very important thing. Otherwise, at some point, an accountant's going to have to untangle it. And again, come due diligence time, that's a real pain. Now, on the hiring front, when you get to the point where you do start hiring, you'll want to work with an HR professional, a human resources professional, to make sure that you have proper hiring and firing processes. You'll have to do things like make sure you get I-9 forms from everybody you hire. You'll need an employee handbook. And if an employee isn't working out, you really need to fix it sooner rather than later. It does not get easier. It just gets harder the more you procrastinate. Always pay your payroll taxes. You can go to jail if you don't do that. And don't pay somebody as a contractor when in reality, they really are working as an employee. Again, that can get you in trouble if you're paying a contractor when they really should be getting employee benefits. So those are just a few things to think about and to do and to talk to an attorney about to make sure you protect your company.